All righty, here we are, folks. Welcome to our Sharing Our Stories. This month we are celebrating Hispanic Latino Month, and we are so excited to have this as one of our Live, Learn, Lead at Noon series. Just a little bit about what we've been doing throughout the year. We have had several important conversations that as we started, unfortunately, with COVID, we wanted to find ways in which we could stay together, continue talking together, continue being a part of each other's lives, even if we had to do it virtually. And so we started the Live, Learn, Lead at Noon. And some of the things that we've done as the year has progressed, one was policing in Sandy Springs. And we had Assistant Chief Keith Zagansk, Mayor Rusty Paul, and Clarissa, our very own Clarissa Sparks, we were talking about policing in Sandy Springs. We had a fair voting conversation right around the time of the elections. And we had our very own Gabe Sterling from Sandy Springs. We had Josh Belinfante, and we had a gentleman from the ACLU. And so that was very interesting and very timely as well. So what we try and do is have relevant conversations, whatever the topics are, the important topics of the day. Our Sharing Our Stories, we focused on Black History Month, we had Women's History Month, and we had Asian Pacific Heritage Month. So we're thrilled that we are wrapping up our Sharing Our Stories this month with Heritage of Latino and Hispanic Month. So what I'd like to do is go quickly through these slides so that we can get to what's really important, and that is hearing from our panelists. Just quickly, you know Leadership Sandy Springs, you know the things that we do. In addition to our luncheon, Live, Learn, Lead, we have Volunteer for a Better Sandy Springs, Movies by Moonlight, and then our big annual Live, Learn, Lead program. This is what I'd like to do, is get to the important part of why we are all here, which is to hear from our panelists. Donate, be the vision. We have our big annual alumni donor campaign, which is happening. So the work continues. The work is bringing you folks that you want to hear from Sharing Our Stories. And what I would like to do now is introduce our amazing panel. So as you know, I'm Jan Paul, Executive Director of Leadership Sandy Springs. And what I have the pleasure of doing today is introducing three incredible people, three incredible alumni. And we are honoring their heritage from various countries, South America, and they all bring their own culture and background to this. These three folks are very talented in their own respects, very different in the careers they've chosen. One is a public servant, has dedicated her life to serving communities. Another is an executive, a business owner, and then a third is a nonprofit professional. But they have all found ways to serve their community. So what I want to do is jump right in and introduce these folks to you, and so that you can get to hear their stories. First of all, well, you know what? I was asked to share this one story, and then I want to get to for you to know them. One of the reasons that this particular series was so important to me is that I was at a wedding of a friend 2 weekends ago. It was at the beach, and the family is Puerto Rican and African American. We went to the beach prior to the wedding, and there was a gentleman there who looked at my friend and said, "You don't belong here." And we were all stunned. Couldn't believe that it was happening. And she just said, "Oh, I do, because we rented a house here and this is a private beach, and so I'm allowed to be on the beach." And he goes, "No, you don't belong here." And went on to say that her son was making it a dangerous place for his daughter to play. And she said, "All he's doing is building a sandcastle. He's digging the sand." And he said, "He's making it a dangerous place, and I'm going to call security on you because you don't belong here." It was just an unbelievable situation for me to experience because I had never, ever been in that exact place at the exact time when discrimination was happening. And so when we had this conversation, I shared this with the panelists, and honestly, it opened up the door to a lot of just very open and honest conversation. So I share that with everybody today because that's where I want it to be, is that open, honest, vulnerable conversation of what happens in the world. It's, we're celebrating history and culture, but there are also some very troubling times that we're going through as well. So that opened the door for our panelists to talk when we got together before this. So I hope that opens up the door for everybody else to have a kind of conversation and reception to the lives that they've led. So first of all, let me tell you about Rocky Gonzales Umrami, affectionately known as Rocky. We all know her as Rocky Gonzales. She is city clerk with the city of Sandy Springs. Throughout her career, she has served with various civic organizations, municipal capacities. She is now our city clerk at City of Sandy Springs. Prior to that, she was with the city of Dorville. Prior to that, we stole her back from Dorville because she left us and went to be their city clerk, and then we stole her back because she's too daggone good to let out of Sandy Springs. So we got her back in Sandy Springs. So in the past, she has worked for the Clayton County Adult Felony Drug Court as a coordinator. She's been a project assistant and a data coordinator for the Georgia Administrative Office of Courts. So you can see that she has dedicated herself to public service. She is a proud U.S. military, from a proud military family. She was born in Japan, Yokosuka, and has lived in Panama City, Panama, among many other military communities throughout the world. She calls Vista, Arizona home, and that's just outside of Fort Huachuca. She has given me some very challenging names to say. And she lives in Sandy Springs with her husband and 2 children. She has a bachelor's degree in political science from Spelman College, active in the PTSA at Riverwood and the Georgia Municipal Clerks Association. What I love about her hobbies is post-crossing. She has so much multiculturalism in her family that's not enough. So she trades postcards from people all around the world. So loves books, loves doting over her children, and she's trying to master her abuela's undefeated, masterminded, that's a pretty big order, Rocky, you're gonna have to help me when you get here, Bacalito's recipe. Next, I want you to meet Dario Lizcano. He's marketing director, program manager for Siemens. First of all, let me tell you, Rocky was in the class 2017, Dario to class 2014. Originally, Dario is from Bogota, Colombia. He's multilingual in Spanish, English, and Russian. He's one of the founders of the graphic design company Yellow Bee Studio. God love them. They did our branding. Take a look at the banner behind me. Thank you, Dario. Thank you, Yellow Bee Studio, for our branding. Dario is valedictorian from the Business School of American Intercontinental University, got his master's from Kennesaw University with a concentration in marketing and project manager professional. He's worked for Fortune 500 companies, Hewlett-Packard, Coca-Cola, and UPS. And on his civic side, how he serves his community, he's served on the boards of the Chattahoochee Nature Center, Community Assistance Center, and he was on our board for Leadership Sandy Springs. Dario is a first-generation immigrant, and so he's very aware of the challenges that people face, and he's chosen as one of his leadership flags that he wants to carry is that he wants to help with education. So doing that, he speaks to high school students, he works with nonprofits to create ways for children and families to succeed. Dario has 3 daughters, an ER doctor in Tennessee, a daughter at NYU, and a daughter at Chamblee High School. And now we have Maritza Morelli. She is executive director of Los Niños Primero, and she was in the class of 2003. Maritza immigrated from Venezuela to Atlanta 31 years ago, and she came here determined that she was going to contribute to her new community and improve the lives of Latinx children. She's done this an incredible job through Los Niños. We're all familiar with Los Niños, where Maritza is the executive director. A number of amazing things that she's done. In 2021, this is her 21st year of leading Los Niños. It started with 1 location and 17 students to now 6 locations and 800 students, youth and adults. Just this past May, Maritza was honored by the Georgia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce as one of the 50 most important influential people in Georgia. And last year in 2020, the Latin American Association awarded her with the 2020 Inspiration Award. I don't know many people that have days named after them, but certainly Maritza does. Incredible. May 21st, 2020, she got her very own Maritza Morelli Day by Fulton County. Pretty awesome. And she was chosen by Atlantic Business Chronicle as one of 20 women who mean business. She's also received the Humanitarian Award from the city of Sandy Springs, and Los Niños has been named top nonprofit organization by Mundo Hispanico. So 3 incredible people. I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to jump out of the way, and Rocky's going to come in. She's going to jump in and lead us in this discussion. So have at it, Rocky. Thank you, guys.
Jan, thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. Dario, Maritza, it's good to see you guys again, and I'm looking forward to the conversation we're going to have today together. So, Jan, I didn't mean to mess you up with Fort Huachuca, but you did fantastic. Thank you. So Dario and Maritza, let's just jump into it. I think Jan did a pretty good job introducing us, but I'd love to hear from you both directly. Share with me, where are you from and what brought you here? Dario? Or
I will let Maritza go first, of course.
I like a well-educated Latino man. Women were first, so thank you, Dario. So I'm from Caracas, Venezuela, and I came to United States, to Atlanta actually, 30 years ago with my ex-husband and a daughter. My daughter at the time was 3 years old, and we stayed here actually in Sandy Springs. We came from Caracas, Venezuela to Sandy Springs with the idea that we are going to just stay 2 years because my ex-husband got a job here. And I have a career in Venezuela as child psychology, and I was working at the time in the Minister of Education there. So Department of Education in Venezuela. So we came with that, and here I am, 31 years living here, which has been an amazing experience.
Jan, well, thank you very much for your kind introduction, and it was a real pleasure to be able to do the rebranding for LSAs before anything, but I have to give all the credit to my wife, Alison, for her creativity, so I can know let that pass. So a little bit about myself. Actually, yes, I am a first generation immigrant. And the reason why I came to the US was because I didn't have the opportunity to actually go to college in Colombia. As many of you might know, it's very, very expensive. And if you cannot get into a public university, which in Bogota, we only had 2 public universities at the time, so it was very hard. I made a decision to come to the US with the idea of going to school here and looking for opportunities. And when I arrived to the US, actually, I had to work 3 jobs. I worked as a waiter at different restaurants while I was taking ESL classes. So really, this experience has helped me to understand why we all immigrants have to go through what we all go through. And I believe during the time I was taking these ESL classes, yes, I met really nice people. However, the people who really influenced me the most were my ESL teachers. They were always giving me guidance. They were always implementing in my mind the importance of learning the language and the importance of educating myself here in this country. And that really went into my brain. So I never stopped learning. I have been trying throughout the years to always be educating myself, but at the same time trying to help others to understand the original message that was given to me.
So I realize in asking you two where you're from, I forgot to mention where I am from. So Jan had mentioned in her introduction that I'm from a U.S. military family. My father's from Puerto Rico, Carolina. And we've lived all over the world, it feels like. And we spent some time in Panama City, Panama. And although Spanish was sometimes spoken at home, it's not our first language. English is my first language. So I imagine for you two coming from other countries, maybe you felt how we felt moving into Panama City, Panama, having that language barrier. When you guys came to the US, did you experience any challenges or any other barriers in settling here?
Yes, definitely. One of the things is, as you mentioned, Raquel, is not knowing the language. When you don't know the language, it's hard for you to access to the culture that you are in. So understand the culture. So I have a lot of challenges because I came also with my daughter, and she was 3 years old. But when she started the school system, she is actually started at 4 years old because she's a late birthday. So, and she went to Spalding Drive Elementary. And one of the challenges that I have is, of course, communicating with the teachers and understand what the expectation, the school expectation has for us. And to understand how people, what expect people from you, and to be able to have friends or to create a community that I was feeling so comfortable in my own country. Everybody can tell who I was, and my father was a very important politician in my country, so everyone knew about us and can do some reference. But here, no one can say anything about me, for example, and to be able to send a reference to somebody else or connect me with other people. So that was really challenged for us, especially for me, because my husband already knew English, and my daughter was, learning from Sesame Street television show, so which I felt that also helped me a lot. And I was I don't have much opportunity to go to English classes since we have one only car, and my husband used it for work. So I was using whatever I had, resources in television, and be able to trying to communicate with the choppy English when I had the opportunity. So it was really challenge for me not to know the language.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think the language and lack of being able to speak properly really is a big barrier that when we look at from today's perspective, when people decided not to or don't have the opportunities to learn the language or the motivation, they are already isolating themselves from the main part of society, either by choice or by luck, I would say. So this is why it's very important to always be encouraging people to learn the language and somehow become acculturated or assimilate into the American culture in the way they wouldn't feel as discriminated as many people might feel. So definitely something that needs to be encouraged, and I experienced that, knowing the language and knowing of the limitations that you would have to communicate with others.
Yeah. So in Jan's introduction, she shared with us an experience she had most recently at her friend's wedding. And I know when she shared that story with us last week as we were getting to know each other, we each were like, oh, it's interesting. For me, it was interesting to hear Jan's story as somebody who's watching this happen to somebody. Watching it happen to somebody close to her. I think we shared with each other, we each have very personal experience where we have felt that maybe we've been discriminated against or people have treated us differently because maybe they look at us as others. I was wondering if you guys would feel comfortable sharing that experience or some of what we discussed last week today.
Yeah, I think it was so powerful for me to hear what Jan said, because not many people understand what immigrants go through when they go to a country that they feel that they don't belong. One thing that I want to also underline is that when you have opportunity in your own country to access to education, you come to any other culture here, America or Europe, whatever country you decide to immigrate, with some foundation that is so important. But sometimes when you don't have that, what I wanted to convey is that when you have education and you have a strong language skills in your own language, it's easier for you to build up a second language. But now when you go and you have that opportunity, educational opportunity, and you feel that you yourself is communicated at kindergarten level, when you know that you can do, you are capable to do more. And when people hear you and hear your language and your level of communication skills, they immediately create like a really easy label of you are not smart. Because this is a world that we live in where we put a lot of emphasis in language and how you eloquence or how you articulate are. The more articulated, the better. So one of the things is that it has been with me that sometimes I speak, and because my accent, people look at me like, oh no, I don't have the patience to hear what she has to say, because it requires for them to accommodate their ear to a new sound. So that is one. And I can remember one day when I was one of the stores that the lady refuses to serve me because she couldn't understand what I was saying. But when you have the access to education and you have confidence in yourself, it's a little easy to overcome that kind of discrimination. I work with families that they are not that privileged, and really it's harder for them to feel like to embrace or face the discrimination, and because they feel like they don't belong and they should not be here when they are doing the same thing that Dario did when he was young, looking for a much better opportunity for them and for the kids. So this is a thing, 31 years of incredible experience and ability and possibility to grow as a person.
Yeah, I think that from my side, I wouldn't say that I really have felt or faced discrimination so openly toward myself. However, there is another instance that I believe is very important and relevant that I felt, and it was the whole stereotype. So being from Colombia, when I came here in the 90s, still there was the big image of drugs and drug dealers and cartels that were hitting our country. So when I was working as a waiter, a lot of the people who wanted to talk to a waiter they would ask me, where are you from? In Colombia. And immediately I say, Bogota. They would say, is it true that you have cocaine under your bed? Is it true that people just sell drugs in any corner of your city? So this is the stereotype. So what I did, I was just trying to switch with my limited English, the image that they have. I asked them, do you know that Colombia produces the best coffee in the world? Do you know that we have the most beautiful emeralds in Colombia? So I somehow became more of a promoter of my land. I became like an ambassador and trying to make people realize that not all the Colombians are drug dealers, that not all the Colombians sell drugs, that that's a really negative image, and that on the contrary, it brings a lot of anger in the Colombian people, because we really had to suffer a lot of the violence that happened in the 80s and 90s in Colombia. So my role, I took my role more as an educator and kind of promote my own land. And I think that as immigrants, we need to be proud where we are coming from. It doesn't matter where we are coming from. We need to keep that inside and show it to the world. And this is something that was very relevant for me, because now I have two daughters who were born here in the US. And one of my goals had always been teaching them that they need to remember where their father came from, that they are also Colombians, and that they show that with pride. They should tell people that they are from Colombia, they are from the United States. So there is no reason to feel ashamed where your family, if you're not from there, is coming from.
Sure. I know firsthand what it feels like to feel like the other person in the room. I think I had shared with you guys last week that as an adult, I'm sometimes the only Black woman in a room, or only the only Black Puerto Rican woman in the room. So often I feel like an other. And Maritza, I think you're right. It's that confidence that you have to have in yourself to to go past that, to move past that and do the work that that you were, called to do or meant to do. I was wondering, in your professional careers, have you experienced, or can you recall any barriers in the same manner that you've had to overcome as well? I mentioned sometimes I'm the only Black person in the room, or the only Black woman in the room. And so sometimes I feel like I have to make sure that that story is told at the table too. What about you guys?
Well, yes. I don't know, life has been putting me in situations I most of the time I'm the only Latina that it's in the room, or the only Latina that is in a committee. And that it has been a really great experience for me, because as Dario mentioned, we become ambassador of our own culture. And when I said our own culture, I don't mean the Latino culture, the culture that you're living in, because one of the things that is important for people to understand, that the Latino culture is not monolithic, it's so diverse. And that it's a privilege for me, has been a privilege for me to be the only Latina that is in the room, or the only Latina that is in the committee. What I would love to see is more Latino, more diverse community, because that is how the world is going to be ending. We need to take in consideration that. And I wanted to mention also that for kids that are the first generation, including my daughter, when they grew up into two cultures, the culture that at home and the culture that is in the school and the community, they start developing the feeling that they don't know where they really belong. Because I was sharing this with Raquel and Dario last week. My daughter, in one point, she said, "Mom, I don't know who I am, because for American, I'm so Latina, and for Latino, I'm very American." And she struggled with that for many years in terms of, and it's not that she was not proud of her heritage. It's the fact that, yes, she's living in two worlds, and this is really a reality for her and for many kids and many young people in our organization, Los Niños Primero. We also have the situation with few teenagers where they come to me and they said, I really don't know who I am. I really wanted to make sure that my family understand that I'm being educated in another country, and I have also new ways to see things. So that has been also eye-opening for me, because I have this story in my country, Venezuela. I grew up in a very diverse community in a very wealthy country at that time. And we value very much education, art. And so I have a very clear root, history root, but my daughter didn't have that experience, and nor many of the youth people that I work with. So they have to develop develop themselves with being okay to have both culture with them. So that's.
Yeah, I think that in my case, from the moment I received the visa to come to the US, I saw that like the greatest opportunity in my life. However, I knew of the big challenges that I would be facing, not just the initial one of not speaking the language, but throughout my professional career in whatever field I would pick. And in regards to your question, Raquel, I really haven't felt being discriminated at my professional level. And as I say, I have worked for some of the best Fortune 500 companies. But one thing I always have had very clear is that I need to work harder than other people. Why? Because I need to prove myself, because I have a feeling that yes, because I might be the different person within the room, I have to approach things at a deeper level, and sometimes feel that I have to prove what I'm saying. So when I come to a meeting, when I try to organize something, I know that I have to be well prepared to support my ideas or to support the decision that I'm making. And it might be that it's not because I feel discriminated or I feel different. I think that is because I train myself to think that being from a different culture, coming from a different country, my ideas might be taken different. So I think that it's just working harder and trying to prove myself every time. It's just part of the mentality that I have developed. And I think that in regards to my kids, and when I go to schools and I speak to kids about this, I always emphasize the fact that they need to educate themselves. They need to prepare themselves, because really this is what is going to make of them a better person and be successful in their careers.
So we have all chosen, as Jan mentioned in her introduction, I think we've all chosen to be available in our community and to support community activities. I was just wondering if you guys could share some of the community work that you guys do here in Sandy Springs or in the Atlanta area, and then what motivates you to do that work.
Well, Dario, if you want to.
Yeah, definitely. Thank
so
you.
We don't have to continue this.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Thank you. Yeah, throughout the years, I have been involved with different organizations, and I worked with the Latin American Association. I worked with the Chattahoochee Nature Center. However, there is an organization that I have worked in the past, or there are two, which is the Project Management Institute and the Sandy Springs Education Force. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to do that for the past couple of years for all the reasons that we know. But that part has been very touching to me, because when you go with the education board, my role was actually go to these schools where the kids the parents of these kids are from other countries and are kids who are at risk of leaving schools. So I was brought in to actually speak to these kids about my background, where I'm coming from and where I am today, and all the achievements and failures that I have had throughout my career and throughout my life. And the goal again is to show to them that we can achieve whatever dream we have. I think that, again, just the fact that we are in this country, the fact that we have the opportunity to live in the United States is one of the greatest gifts that many people could have, and you need to take advantage. So you make these kids realize, in my role, when I go and I talk to them, is make them realize how fortunate they are. Yes, many of their parents might not be rich, they might not have all the materialistic needs, but they have the love and the desire for their kids to succeed and be better than what they were. And that is kind of part of my role, make them realize what they have and what they can achieve throughout the years with hard work. Yes, you have to educate yourself, you have to prepare yourself, but if you do it, the opportunities are endless. And I think that at that point, I make them also realize that there are no barriers when you really have the desire to achieve your goals.
Well, in my case, the work that I do is so connected to my personal story. I came from a family that my mother didn't have access to education. Well, she did, but she stopped it in elementary school because my grandfather thought that it will be better for her just to learn the skills to become a good mother and a good wife. My father was a politician, as I said before, a strong defender of public education. Both of them knew that education will take their children far in life, and they both were determined for us to graduate from college and beyond. So that is where we all did. So when I saw my father fighting and advocating for the less privileged community in my country, I really grew up in me a big admiration for his job. And without knowing, I started finding my own purpose in life. When I was in Venezuela, I was working with the Department of Education and developing new system and new system for the kids to learn the language better and to read and write much better and to be more efficient. And when I came to United States, I mentioned I didn't speak English, and I saw how much struggle I had trying to communicate with the teacher. So I knew that part of my life here will be dedicated to advocate for these families, like I was one of them that didn't speak English, and to continue my passion of making sure that the new generation understand the importance of being educated. So that is what motivated me to work in education. I work for a Fulton County school system for 14 years. And at the same time, I was directing this organization, as Jen mentioned in my introduction. I've been director for 21 years, and I feel like it's not enough to put an emphasis. Educating our children is so important to incorporate in the equation the parents. So without the parents, the education is incomplete. So, and more for our Latino families here in Sandy Springs and in Georgia in general. So that is the work that we do here in in Los Niños Primero is to promote education, is to from early age at 3 all the way to college. And that it has been very successful for us. And I'm very, very proud of all the team that work with me and make this possible, because it's not only Maritza Morelli, it's also all the donors and people in the community, volunteers, and that has been making this organization what it is today.
Rocky, I'm going to break in with the 5-minute warning and give you the 2 questions from the audience. 1, how can we identify potential Latinx leaders to go through the program? And 2, how as we as US born individuals, can we help those not born here to feel more comfortable and welcome?
So I don't know who wants to take on one of those questions first. One of them is, how is it, and I believe it's the leadership group that they're asking, how can the leadership group identify some more Latin leaders to participate? Is that right, Catherine?
Correct.
I was, when I was as part of the board of director for leaderships in the spring, that was one of the hardest things to do. And I had always been thinking about that. And I think that one of the ways is actually integrating and bringing into the table some of the organizations that connect directly with this community. I know, for example, in the Dunwoody area, we have 3 consulates. We have the Colombian, Peru, and Guatemala. And I think that we need to make these people part of our community. You know, yes, they are Dunwoody, but they can be also part of Sandy Springs, and they can help us discover the new leaders, the new people who can come and serve the community. So that would be one way that I would do. And in regards to the second question that I believe Andrea is posting, I believe that one of the ways that we can help integrate those foreign, help the other community from the American perspective, I think is investing, trying to help support education and trying to help and support ESL teachers and create better opportunities from this perspective.
I really echo what Dario says. And also, you know, be more cultural sensitive of what the Latino culture means. And we have in Sandy Springs a lot of young, smart, young people that would love to, you know, to participate and to be a voice for others. Maybe we need to do a much better job saying or putting up there what are the possibility and how they can be participating in it and be more, have more publicity. And we have in the school system, we can use the schools to pass it on that information. Maybe we need to have more more people in the school, in high school, maybe you know, coming and talking to the young people that are about to graduate, to let them know what we have here in Sandy Springs. It's so important to make sure that the information is disseminated. And so I've been working with few young people that are taking leadership role in Los Niños Primero, and I'm amazed how well they are doing and how committed they are. So, and reach out to this organization, reach out to Los Niños, reach out to Sandy Spring Mission that has been working also with young people, and they are really very good to reach to others. No, so it's a matter of maybe sitting down in a table and come up with new ideas.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's more than a flyer. I think it's more than an email. I think like, you know, you have to be intentional. Like if it is important that you diversify the people who are sitting at the table, well, then you have to put the action behind that importance. And it's reaching out and it's expanding your networks. And I also think sometimes it's putting yourself in an uncomfortable position or in a position you may feel challenged in and reaching out to other folks. Oh no, Jan, you're muted. It's like the tagline of 2020.
You're right. That needs to go down in the dictionary of words that we add or phrases that we add this year, right? Sorry about that, folks. We are approaching the end of our time, and I really do want to thank our group. I just want to echo that there was one other chat question that was in there, and it was more of a comment than a question, and it was a thank you for what you've done, and echo what was just said of really putting yourselves out there. And that's not directed at the three of you because you do that every day. It's to us to help put ourselves out there so that we are communicating with the Latinx and Hispanic communities and make that integration that you've all talked about. I can't thank you enough. I know all of you as friends and colleagues. And Dario, yes, you're married to a genius woman who is such a great graphic artist. And I'm sorry I didn't say Allison before, because I know how talented she is. But no, thank you all so very much for being a part of this. I just have to say, I'll end where I started with that wedding. I love the Latinx culture and community. I have so much fun when I'm invited, a privilege of being invited to parties and weddings, and we sing and we dance and we laugh really loud and hard. And it is just such an honor to be a part, when I can be a part of the Latinx community. Very vibrant, and you bring so much to our Sandy Springs community. And thank you. Thank you for all you've done to bring your culture to Sandy Springs and let's spread that. Let's get more folks involved, and we're with you. We're with you. Everybody, thank you for coming today. It was a great, great conversation. Rocky, thank you for leading. Dario, Maritza, thank you for being here. We truly appreciate it. I hope you guys have a great weekend. It's going to be beautiful. Enjoy your weekend. And thank you again for coming. We truly appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.